Hello, my name's Mark Saunders, and this is a YouTube video on the research process, and it provides an overview of the process. It's one of a series of YouTube videos on my YouTube channel, Mark Saunders on Research Methods, and you can see the link to it in the bottom left-hand corner of each slide. What I'd like to say before I start is that, unlike the picture on the left, research is rarely a straightforward journey. Most books and presentations present research as a staged process, as a series of stages through which you must pass. And they're rational and straightforward. And indeed, my book, I do the same. You can see that in the diagram on the right-hand side. Don't worry if you can't actually see it. But what I'm going to be talking about how it isn't such a straightforward process, but to still give you an overview. So I'm going to be giving you an overview of the various stages, such as generating research ideas and research questions, critically reviewing the literature, understanding research philosophy and your approach, formulating research design, negotiating access, and of course being ethical, how to collect data, analyse data, write, present, and then finally submit. However, as I stress, this is a messy process. Hence we have feeding forward and reflection and feedback arrows. And I think back to a very early paper I wrote with Phil called Great Ideas and blind alleys. And research is often about great ideas becoming blind alleys and having to navigate your way through a very, very maze-like path. In the logical process of doing research, the first stage is formulating and clarifying the research topic. And this is where we begin to think about research and generate our research ideas. And these research ideas can come from many sources. They can come from the literature and the process of feeding forward, and obviously as we go further we can feed back with reflection and revision. We work up our ideas and narrow down the focus so we get a clearer question, aims and objectives, and we may well be using the ABC rule, having a question which has an abstract context and a context. The literature in doing this is crucial, and it's ongoing writing and reflecting, and I find that writing as I go along helps me to get my ideas straight. The next stage is reviewing the literature critically. Now this is a critical one to do, and it takes time. And when we look at this one, it comes once we've got a broad idea, but obviously it will help refine our idea, and it links into our philosophy moving forwards. It's a critique though, it's not just a catalogue of what we read, it's a way of justifying our research, contextualising our research, and refining our ideas. It also gives us ideas for research methods, and as we move forward we reflect further and refine back and read more literature as our ideas become clearer and clearer. The next aspect is designing the research. I don't really want to say the next stage because we're moving back, we're feeding forward and reflecting and revising as we go along. But this is about how we're going to answer our research question and meet our aims. Our research philosophy will be crucial to this, as it influences what we're going to answer in terms of question and how we're going to do it. The sorts of things like what we consider acceptable knowledge, the role of our values and things like that. The method we design, or the way we design it, needs to be feasible. In other words, it needs to enable our research question and aims and objectives to be answered, and it's dependent on gaining access, what's possible, and also on being ethical. We justify it by the literature, and as I've said, we reflect on what we've read before, and as we move forward into other aspects of it, we come back and rewrite and reiterate. So it's almost a spiral-like process. The next aspect we need to consider is collecting the data, and this is dependent upon gaining access across. And what we're trying to do here is have something we call methodological fit, ensuring that our research philosophy and our research question match with the method. It enables us to get the data, and it all comes together nicely. Within this, we're trying to ensure we're ethical, our research design is rigorous, and is justified a bit by literature. And we are feeding forward these ideas as we actually go into more data analysis, for example, but we're also reflecting on what we've done before and revising it so we have a consistent golden thread running through, and there is clear methodological fit throughout. We then move into analysing the data. And analysing data obviously depends on the data we've actually collected, and we'll be using quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, or mixed methods. And again, we're making sure that The methods fit with the research question and the literature and the research design, and they're justified. We have to have a rigorous method, and we feed forward the ideas here into our writing up, and we reflect and revise what we've done before. So this whole cyclical process, or this spiral of building up. The final stage in this not so linear process but more spiral process is what I call rewriting the project. And you'll notice I say it's about rewriting, not writing. And within this, we need to leave time for reflection and revision, and also for the project tutor's comments and to actually amend our draft so we get it better. And then we may need to think about having to do a PowerPoint presentation or poster presentations. And obviously, once this is all done, we submit the project report and give our presentation. I'd like to now move on to the final part. In talking about further reading for the overview of the research process, I'd like to refer you first to my textbook with Phil and Adrian, Research Methods of Business Students, where in Chapter 1 we give an overview of the research process, and whilst presented linearly, indeed you see the diagram in this presentation, we do actually emphasise that it isn't. This is further emphasised in the third reference in the book with Phil and myself doing research and business management, which gives a shorter version of the process. The paper, Great Ideas and Blind Alley's Review of Literature and Starting Management Research, is very much there as an early paper I wrote with Phil, which actually shows how there's very little starting research in the literature. Fortunately, this has improved dramatically. And the final reference here, the book which Keith Townsend and myself edited, How to Keep Your Research Project on Track, actually tells about research as it is with people's real experiences, and I think you'll enjoy reading that as well.